Some of our threats and some of our needs within customs and border protection. So as you're aware, over the past couple of years, we've been doing migration surges from our border across the southwest border. So year to date, right now, we've encountered about 890,000 individuals coming across our borders. So as we really think about what that is, and over the course of a period of time now, the surges that we're dealing with is really causing us to bring officers and agents from different locations in order to help handle the surge that we're seeing across the board in many locations, which then in turn requires us to consolidate and at times suspend operations at checkpoints, at ports of entry, at locations in order for us to shift our manpower and resources in order to help out the surge and what we're doing on a regular basis. I think the stress that of course puts on employees, the stress that puts on our resources in total, right, is a toll on us and kind of what we do every single day and what our men and women do every single day as they're handling the surge of families, of minors, of adults coming into the United States at these locations. So as we deal with that, we really talk about what our needs are in that aspect. We talk about consequences, we talk about enforcement, and we heard some of that from the agents out in the field today in regards to delivering consequences and enforcement actions when we're dealing with smugglers and we're dealing with those individuals that are taking advantage of these vulnerable populations and individuals that are coming across the United States. So we talked about the ability to work with prosecutors and special agents, and we talked about the ability to work with foreign countries and our ability to repatriate those individuals that we're trying to repatriate back to their countries that don't qualify for any legal means to be here or asylum process. Those are all aspects for us in regards to how we deal and how we deliver on consequences to allow our men and women to handle the work that they need to be doing and get back out to the field. Some of the things that we've done with that to help ourselves in what we're doing, when we talk about mission, needs, duty, and making sure that we have the right people attacking the right problem set. So we have law enforcement personnel doing law enforcement work. We have administrative work being assigned to administrative type duties. So a lot of things that we have done and the Border Patrol has done is regard bringing in Border Patrol processing coordinators, data entry specialists, turning the data into the systems, mission support specialists and technicians in order to help us take care of some of the administrative needs and things that we need to be doing and caring for, but then allowing our agents and officers to get back out to the field in order to support the law enforcement that they do, and they do quite well every single day. In regards to the other threats that we deal with, we talk about narcotics, and just so far this year we've seized over 8,000 pounds of fentanyl this year. And so when we start, absolutely. So when we start talking about fentanyl and what we're seeing there, our needs are, and what our opportunities are in regards to narcotic enforcement, we'll be talking about large-scale NII equipment and small-scale NII equipment. Today we have 31 large-scale NII in the ground. We have another 26 that are under construction. By the end of this year, depending on budgets and funding, we could have another 43 that starts in regards to getting NII in the ground for what we're doing in order for the detection of fentanyl coming across the border. We're also, K9 is also a huge asset for us in regards to our ability to detect drugs coming into vehicles, conveyances, at checkpoints, at ports of entry in regards to that detection with our K9 units. Foreign operating labs is another aspect of what we do in order to allow our men and women to be able to identify what they have in front of them from a product, from a chemical, and how dangerous that is in order to be able to identify that. Those are all aspects of kind of what we're doing from a fentanyl aspect and how we consolidate and really come together from a checkpoint, from a port of entry, inland, interior, and what we're doing from a fentanyl aspect. Our partners in HSI, obviously an important aspect of what happens next once the seizure happens from an investigative standpoint and a prosecution standpoint on how we do that. I think from, as you heard today from the agents out in the field, resources are a big part of what we need. When we talk about resources, we talk about technology. Our ability to detect is one thing. So cameras and sensors and those type of things, NII, small scale, large scale. Our ability to get to that detection is the next piece of it. So our personnel being able to get there. So as we talk about resources, surges, demands on what we're seeing today, we talk about where we are with the budget and not having a budget as of yet, that really starts to take toll on what our capabilities are, potentially what we can do for the rest of the year here. So without that budget to support the men and women who do this job every day, it constrains what our ability is and what they can actually do every single day for us to keep this country safe from a national security perspective and an economic security perspective. Because as you look at what we do not only between the ports, but at the ports of entry, when we talk about outbound weapons seizures, which we almost have 600 outbound weapons seizures that have happened so far this year. We $2.3 million worth of currency seized on the outbound side that we've also seized this year at our ports of entry. And we talk about the legitimate trade and flow of legitimate traffic coming into the United States as well. That is an important aspect of how we match both our national security mission and our economic security mission.
President, the only thing I want to add is the men and women behind you in uniform. These are the courage. These are the heroes. These are the ones that made this happen. We talk about almost 900,000 apprehensions. 15,000 of those are criminals, gang members that they have taken off the street. All the narcotics that have been seized, it's them that has done it. They are the story here. They're the ones that need the backup and the support. We talk about the extra manpower. We talk about the extra force multipliers, technology, infrastructure, equipment. It all goes to them to help to make sure they do their job as well as can be done. And like you and I talked about, sir, to make sure they make it home safe again in their shift.
The other thing is amazing is the lack of technology. Cartels and comes up in the sky immediately.
Yes, sir.
They do. And particularly here in the RGD, we're the leading sector with the detection of drones coming across that border. And the majority of those drones are owned by cartels and criminal organizations, as we've been talking about. Those agents in the field that talk to you today, that's what they express, the need for more technology so that we are able to secure that border and at the same time, increase the officer safety. Because like the chief said, our concern is that they're vulnerable. And they're out there doing the job to protect this country, but with the lack of technology, it puts them at risk.
Like the personnel. One of the things we're trying to do is get literally thousands more agents, thousands more, 1,500, 1,600 more border patrol. Dealing with providing the access of what we have 4,500 more.
4,300 more asylum officers, which we hear from U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Service.
But look, the other thing is, you know, every time you all leave the house and put on that uniform, family wonders what kind of call they're going to get later in the day. And so we owe your families big. I mean that sincerely, from the bottom of my heart. We owe them big for what you do. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We're going to get you more resources.
Thank you, sir. We'll move on to CIS.
£7,093 for fentanyl. I want to put the American people on how many kids are dying.
Sir, here with us are our partners from U.S. Citizen and Immigration Services. They're going to provide you a brief on some of their efforts.
So, sir, the USCIS mission, as you well know, is very narrow at the border, but it is an important one. It's critical, in fact, to the whole process. Our officers are responsible for screening individuals, interviewing them to determine whether they have a credible fear of persecution or torture. So these are individuals that have been encountered by Border Patrol, they claim to fear, and now they go before an asylum officer who interviews them and makes those decisions. We do have hundreds of very well-trained and dedicated officers like Katisha Jackson, but it's simply not enough. So we've tried to be very creative to better help support the mission since May 12th. So for example, we've leveraged IT technology to create efficiencies. We've leveraged overtime. We've even trained other volunteers from across USCIS to get them trained and able to do this work and support it. We've been very fortunate to be able to complete the highest number of credible fear completions ever in history because of those efforts, but we still need to do more. In fact, when I was an officer, we did 5,000 cases a year. Just since May 12th, over the past 9 months, we've done 71,000 credible fear interviews. But I'd really love for you to hear from Katisha specifically because she lives and breathes this every day as an asylum officer.
So I'm an asylum officer out of the Houston asylum office. As an asylum officer, we wear many hats. We are encountering the applicants for many hours in the day. We're running security checks to make sure that they're not at risk to national security. We're getting interpreters to make sure that we can successfully conversate with the applicants. We're doing the interviews where we're eliciting testimony to make sure that they actually have a reasonable or credible fear to be in the country. And we're asking them, why did you leave your home? And what do you fear from returning? Then we start the adjudicative process. And as we do the adjudicative process, we're trying to find out two things. Whether they have a positive, whether they can determine that they do have a credible or reasonable fear, and then we will refer them to the immigration judge to have a full hearing. Second, if they have a negative, then we will make that referral for removal. But I love being an asylum officer. I wake up and choose to be an asylum officer every day. I support the mission. I believe that if we can offer protection to anyone, then that's what I want to do. But right now, asylum officers are so overwhelmed. 71,000 since May 12th is huge. And we need resources, we need bodies. We've had to pull from other areas just to be able to support the mission and do the job. For the last year or so, I've worked 6 days a week doing overtime. I'm not complaining about it because that's something that I choose to do, but I wouldn't have to do it if I had the support behind it.
Hey, look, we proposed in the bipartisan, get you 4,300 additional asylum officers. Now, not tomorrow, not next week, not next year, now. And the idea was most people at the border understand. But when you decide, and we're raising the credible fear standard as well, if we get this done. But the interesting thing is, we talk about what happened. Asylum officers, clearly they have reasonable fear. They're trying to be reasonable fear. They meet the standard. And they said when they see a judge, 5 to 7 years they see a judge.
That's exactly right.
That's so true, sir. That's
So,
so
I
true.
mean, it's bizarre.
Yeah, that's true.
It's bizarre. So 5 to 7 years, and you're supposed to show up, and 70% show up, okay? Now, what do you make, what happens in 5 to 7 years? Well, who knows what happens? First of all, 30% don't show up, number one. Number two, when they show up, they have families, they have everything's extended, everything's different. If we get you these asylum officers, you'll be able to do it in 6 months.
Absolutely.
And be able to change the dynamic in a big, big way.
That's exactly right.
But it's crazy. Why? I mean, we have the wherewithal to do this. We have the money to do this. We have the capacity to do this. And you guys have the knowledge to know how to do it. And you say that you don't mind working on
I
that.
don't mind, I don't.
Well, God love you. Well, we finally got you some overtime.
Yes, yes, yes.
But, well, we shouldn't. It's not you. And the sacrifices your families make. I mean, they're real. I wish average American, I'm not complaining about it, I'm just making the statement. Most Americans don't even understand how complicated this is. Here, we think you have a credible fear. We'll see in about 7 years. Okay? Maybe 10. I mean, it just makes no sense. It makes no sense. I promise you, we're going to fight like the devil to get to this bipartisan proposal that Democrats and Republicans supported. Something's happening right now, but we're gonna see if we can clear that up.
We appreciate that. Really appreciate it.
It's so nice to meet you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
At least you got some overtime. It's not worth it though. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. We'll now come over here with our friends from ICE, HSI, and ICRO.
Thank you. Gotta stand in my mark. My mark back here, I got, I'm still where I stand, a little exit, I got to take care of what I do.
Mr. President, so my name is Daniel Bible. I'm with ICE Enforcement and Removal Operations. And our mission is pretty much interior enforcement. So what we do is we identify, locate, apprehend, detain, and then remove individuals that are either national security threats or public safety threats, and those other non-citizens that have been found removable from the United States. In FY '23, we arrested over 107,000 public safety or national security threats in the interior of the United States and in the interior of the United States. That's correct, sir. And we removed over 200,000 individuals from over 180 countries. And one of the things that I'm really proud about this year is we're on, in this FY, in FY '24, to date, we have the highest number of removals of these national security threats and public safety threats that we've ever had in the organization right now. Some of the challenges we have is our bed space, right? We are now just under 40,000 people in custody. We're funded for much lower than that right now to keep those people, and the numbers are growing, and every day it gets a little bit more difficult to manage that population. We also have approximately 7 million people on the non-detained docket that we have to monitor through the immigration process, and then if those individuals are found removable from the United States, also execute those removal missions as well. During the last FY, in support of our counterparts over at and we just need more resources, more personnel, more resources to have detention beds, and also resources for technology for monitoring those 7 million individuals. And hopefully with some of the stuff that has happened recently in the news, we can get some of these local and state jurisdictions to come back to the table and work with ICE so we can get these public safety threats out of the community and remove them from the United States for that ultimate immigration consequence.
Besides the additional 10,000 beds that this compromise we've worked out haven't passed yet in the Congress, what is the most important thing you need? What, if you have a wish list, anything you need, what is the most consequential thing you need?
For me, it's personnel and bringing back those jurisdictions to work with us. The safest way for me to take a criminal off the street that's encountered by a local jurisdiction or a state jurisdiction is for them to turn them over to law enforcement, rather than have more of my resources, which takes a lot more to go out to the communities and have to find these individuals and arrest them in the communities and bring them back into custody, which makes it more dangerous for not only me, for the non-citizen and the public at large.
Okay, what's the better way to take on these cartels?
Well, sir, Katrina Berger, I'm the EAD for HSI, Homeland Security Investigations.
I knew that, I'm sorry, but they didn't. But I'm glad you said it. I should have said you.
We talk about consequences, and with HSI, we are all about the consequences. And the best consequences we can put on these transnational criminal organizations is to prosecute them, arrest them, put them in jail, seize their assets, seize their money. And how do we do that? We work with our transnational criminal investigative units, our TCIUs, south of the border to help stem the flow of illegal migration, goods, narcotics coming up. They hit the border. We're partnering with CBP, our good partners over there. We've been supporting them the last year, 18 months with the irregular migration. A lot of TDY support at the border. That's also pulling away from some of our investigative activities.
Yeah.
But it's, as I always say, it's one team, one fight. So we're there. What do we need? Certainly everyone talks about personnel. We have a lot of agents. We have a lot of law enforcement. Support staff is often lacking across the board. Analysts, criminal analysts, investments in technology.
I want the press to hear, what do you mean by support staff?
Our mission support people, the people that administratively help us do our mission, they support the mission.
Right.
Our criminal analysts that do a lot of our analytical work, help with targeting, help put together investigative packages so we can get the prosecutions on these criminal organizations. Title 21 would really help us. These are poly-criminal organizations. They're just not one-faceted.
Right.
They don't just engage in human smuggling, they engage in drug smuggling, they engage in weapons trafficking. If we had Title
In
21.
human trafficking they engage in.
Yes, human smuggling, human trafficking, many criminal activities. It's not going to stop us by not having Title 21. We're going to keep doing our job. It just slows us down. We're a poly-investigative agency targeting poly-criminals. So that's really what we need. More investments in technology as well, artificial intelligence, machine learning to help better target all of these activities out there would help us tremendously.
When I was last at the border a year ago, I witnessed the machines that detect the fentanyl. Explain how they work and what it is, because we got a lot of money for a significant number more.
We do, and I could talk about that, but Mr. Flores can probably talk a little bit more succinctly and get it a little bit more accurately.
Well, we could do both. Come on over for a second, because a lot of it has to do with, anyway.
Yes, sir. So, Mr. President, so our NII technology is what we're talking about. We have it in two scales. We have
Explain what NII means.
non-intrusive technology. We have a large scale, which we can drive commercial trucks, commercial passenger vehicles through, and we have small scale, which we can do packages, or we can examine tires in the small scale. So our ability to use that, first, as we talk about risk, and we talk about assessing some type of risk to a conveyance, to a commercial shipment, to a package, to a piece of mail, data that we get in advance of that becomes important for us. Analytic work that goes into it between ourselves, HSI, and how we do the analytics on that and determine what the risk is. Once we determine what the risk is, we can either do a targeted exam of that commercial truck, of that passenger vehicle, of that package, of that commercial shipment, or we can go out and randomly select based on what we believe a perceived threat to be on that. Our ability to run and scan and then have our officers or personnel analytically determine if there's an anomaly in that package is intensive work on our end. As we work towards machine learning and AI, and our ability for algorithms to be able to identify potential anomalies, and then our personnel ensuring that an anomaly exists or doesn't exist, and then we go out and examine. That's a game changer for us, and our ability to be able to quickly and facilitate individuals and cargo coming in the country while targeting risk and examining the packages or conveyances that we need to examine.
And this, at port of entry, this has occurred as well. Because last time I was here, I remember they were going with, looks like a boxcar, coming across in a tractor trailer. And they had about 80 individuals in that, smuggling. Other one, they showed me a significant amount of drugs in it. So I just want the American people to know what we're trying to get done. How many more of these big things are we talking about?
The non-intrusive inspection technology under the legislation, we would get more than $400 million to implement more than 100 of those machines.
That'd make a difference, wouldn't it?
It would, absolutely.
And Mr. President, Pete spoke of the construction projects that we have underway for this year. We can't finish those without additional funding.
Well, there's plenty of funding there. If we, no, the really is we can afford. We can't afford not to do this, and we can afford to do it. I mean, for example, the infrastructure work being done at the border crossings. Right. Well, you know, I was able to get a $1 trillion, $200 billion bill passed that has infrastructure money in it. It could be a game changer. And here we're scratching our heads like, what are we going to do? I just admire your, not only your courage and your intellect and your judgment, but that you're willing to keep at this. So understaffed. No, I really mean it. It's incredible.
It's one team, one fight, sir.
I know it's one team, one fight. Easy, all the sayings are worth saying, but I tell you what, getting it done is a lot harder. I think the American people should know just how much combination of risk, work, and dedication there is in trying to get this done. Anyway, it's amazing. It's amazing.
Thank you, HSI. Thank you, ERO. Sir, it's time for remarks, and our briefers, I invite you to our seats, and then we'll escort you this way.
Okay.
Great job. Thank you.
By the way,
Thank you, sir.
thanks.
A native Delawarean, or from Georgetown, Seaford.
Georgetown, damn, girl. Everybody doesn't understand Southern Delaware the first time around. Say, boy, where are you from?
I grew up at a little crossroads called Hardscrabble.
Well, what? Where am I going? Again, thank you. As my mother would say, please excuse my back. I apologize. Well, folks, good afternoon. Before we start, I'd like to say a few words about the devastating wildfires that are scorching Texas Panhandle and northwest Oklahoma. Yesterday, one of the biggest fire events in Texas history, with more than 1 million acres of Texas land burned. From the start, I directed my team to do everything possible to help protect the people in the communities threatened by these fires. In response to specific requests made from the state, we already have more than 500 federal personnel here working on fire suppression. That includes the deployment of 100 federal firefighters and more on the way, as well as dozens of additional fire engines, air tankers, small planes, helicopters to help fight the flames. And FEMA has already guaranteed that Texas and Oklahoma will be reimbursed for the cost of keeping folks safe. And we're grateful for the brave first responders risking their lives to save others. And we urge folks to listen to the warnings from the local officials, listen to them. I've flown over a lot of these wildfires since I've been president. Matter of fact, I've been in a helicopter in the west and the southwest and the northwest, flown over more land burned to the ground, all the vegetation gone, than the entire state of Maryland in square footage. The idea there's no such thing as climate change, I love that, man. I love some of my Neanderthal friends who still think there's no climate change. Well, my administration is going to keep building on the progress we've made fighting climate crisis, and we're going to keep help folks rebuild themselves in the wake of these disasters. And we rebuild to the standards that are the up-to-date standards and building codes and the rest. Because if you fly over these areas that are burned to the ground, you'll see in the midst of 20 homes that are just totally destroyed, one home sitting there because it had the right roof on it. And anyway, since I took office, FEMA's provided Texas alone over $13 billion in 3 years in disaster relief after fires and winter storms across the state. And when disasters strike, there's no red state or blue state where I come from. They're just communities and families looking for help. So we're standing with everyone affected by these wildfires. We're going to continue to help you respond and recover. Now, turning to the purpose of my visit. I want to thank Congressman Gonzalez. There you are, pal. I thank you. I thank him for the passport into his district, but he's been a great partner. I also want to thank Mayor Cowan for his partnership, and I want to thank County Judge Trevino for over 30 local officials who've joined us here today. No one works harder for a safe, secure border than all of you. And Secretary Mayorkas has joined us today, and he's joined by 7 mayors and cities and towns across South Texas. 4 county judges here from across the state. I told the county judge that I used to be a county official. It's the hardest job in American politics. You know why? They think you can do everything, you don't have the budget. So anyway. And the 2 leaders from the Texas legislature, State House Leader Trey is here, Trey Martinez Fisher, and the State Senate Leader Carol Alvadero. And all the other local officials that are here today, I want to say thanks. Folks, it's real simple. It's time to act. It's long past time to act. I just received a briefing from the Border Patrol at the border, as well as Immigration and Enforcement, asylum officers, and they're all doing incredible work under really tough conditions. Really tough conditions. They told me what you already know, and we already know. They desperately need more resources. Say it again, they desperately need more resources. They need more agents, more officers, more judges, more equipment in order to secure our border. Folks, it's time for us to move on this. We can't wait any longer. Folks, on my first day as president, I introduced a bill I sent to Congress, a comprehensive plan to fix the broken immigration system and to secure the border. But no action was taken. Then months ago, my team began a serious negotiation in a bipartisan group of senators, leading conservative Republicans and progressive Democrats. And it resulted in a compromise bill. It's the toughest set of border security reforms we've ever seen in this country. It's pretty basic. With this deal, we could hire 1,500 additional border security agents, 1,500 additional officers, and between ports of entry. For the last 4 years, staffing has been roughly that, flat, just flat. Agents working overtime, spending long hours patrolling the border, making major sacrifices. And I know it takes a big toll on them and their families. That's why in December I signed a bill finally getting Border Patrol agents what I've been pushed by and reminded by the congressman, overtime pay they deserve. And finally getting overtime pay. I mean, it's ridiculous it took this long. It was long past time, and I was proud to do it, but we need to do more. It's time to step up. It's time to step up, provide them with significantly more personnel and capability. We also need more immigration judges to help handle the backlog. There are 2 million cases, backlog of 2 million cases. This bipartisan deal would provide funding for 100 more immigration judges immediately. It would also establish new, efficient, and fair process for the government to consider asylum claims for those arriving on our border. Today, the process to get a decision on an asylum claim takes 5 to 7 years. Now, you all know it down here, but the people around the country don't understand it. It's far too long. You come in, you say I have a credible fear, and we've changed that standard to make it hard. We want to change, make it harder. And what happens? You say, well, okay, you can come in the country, but come back in 5 to 7 years, maybe as many as 8 years, and you'll get a hearing from before a judge to determine whether you can stay. This will encourage more people. This encourages more people to come to the country. If they get by the first, they got another 5, 7, 8 years before they have to do anything, because they know they cannot handle the caseloads quickly, and they'll be able to stay in this country in the meantime. With new policies in this bill, and the addition of 4,300 additional asylum officers, we'll be able to reduce that process to less than 6 months. That would have a serious deterrent effect on those coming north. When the criminal gangs say, we'll get you north, what's $8,000? They say, no, wait, let me get this straight. I'm going to go north. It's going to cost me probably closer to $8, I guess, $1,000 equivalent. And I'm going to get there, and in 6 months, they may be able to get rid of me. I don't know, man. 6 months, 7 years, 2 different things. The person who's thinking about entering the United States understands the cases to be decided in a few weeks or months instead of 5 to 7 years. They're less likely to come in the first place. They're not going to pay the cartels thousands of dollars to make that journey. Knowing that, it will be turned around quickly. Look, then we also need more cutting-edge inspection machines to detect and stop fentanyl from entering the United States of America. A year ago, I stood at the border in El Paso, and I watched these machines at work. They were able to detect everything from fentanyl to weapons to people being smuggled in cargo containers. This compromise bill would provide an additional $424 million for 100 more of these machines and could save lives in the process. This compromise legislation will also give me as president, or the next president, emergency authority to temporarily shut down the border between ports of entry when the numbers of immigrants and migrants, overwhelm the border, straining the Border Patrol's ability to process them. At the same time, at our legal ports of entry, like here in Brownsville, we're making investments in infrastructure. My bipartisan infrastructure law is going to provide nearly $4 billion new dollars to boost security, to ease waiting times at land and ports of entry like Brownsville. And I want to thank again Congressman Gonzalez for helping me get that through and get it passed as the law. That you get the money for example, that's how you got the money for the Gateway Bridge from that fund. Folks, the bipartisan border security deal is a win for the American people. And it's a win for the people of Texas, and it's fair for those who legitimately have a right to come here to begin with. It's a win for the people of Brownsville, and I believe that's why the Border Patrol Union endorsed it. I believe that's why the National Chamber of Commerce endorsed it, not known as a Democratic organization with a capital D. Look, and that's why the Wall Street Journal endorsed it as well. This is a truly bipartisan initiative. That's why the bipartisan South Texas Alliance of Cities endorsed it. Folks, I didn't get everything I wanted in that compromise bipartisan bill, but neither did anybody else. A compromise is part of the process. That's how democracy works. That's how it's supposed to work. Compromise is a very positive step on a critical issue for the country, all those issues for the country. And folks here in Brownsville and all along the border know that. We need to have their backs, your backs. I want the people to understand clearly what happened here. This bill was in the United States Senate, was on its way to being passed. Then it was derailed by rank-and-file politics, partisan politics. The U.S. Senate needs to reconsider this bill, and those senators who oppose it need to set politics aside and pass it on merits, not on whether it's going to benefit one party or benefit the other party. It's about whether it benefits the American people. It's what the American people deserve. The Speaker of the House needs to put this bill on the floor, because if he put it on the floor unrestricted, it would pass. The majority of Democrats and Republicans in both houses support this legislation, until someone came along and said, don't do that, it'll benefit the incumbent. That's a hell of a way to do business in America for such a serious problem. We need to act. It's time for the speakers and some of my Republican friends in Congress who are blocking this bill to show a little spine. Pass a bipartisan, remember, bipartisan. Conservative leaders supported this. Border security bill. Let's remember who we work for God's sake. We work for the American people. Let me end with this. I understand my predecessor's an Eagle Pass today. So here's what I would say to Mr. Trump. Instead of playing politics with this issue, instead of telling members of Congress to block this legislation, join me, or I'll join you in telling the Congress to pass this bipartisan border security bill. We can do it together. You know and I know it's the toughest, most efficient, most effective border security bill this country has ever seen. So instead of playing politics with the issue, why don't we just get together and get it done? Let's remember who the heck we work for. We work for the American people, not the Democratic Party, the Republican Party. We work for the American people. And let's remember who we are. We're the United States of America. No, I mean this. Think about this. There's nothing beyond our capacity. Nothing when we work together. And if all things we should be working together on is this, we have the formula to get it done. God bless you all, and may God protect our Border Patrol, and God protect our troops. Now I'd like to turn this over to Secretary Mayorkas. Thank you.
Good afternoon. At the outset, I want to echo the President's words about the tragic fires in Texas and Oklahoma. We in the Department of Homeland Security, especially our agency FEMA, are intensely focused on providing the support, resources, and assistance the impacted residents and communities need. We are grateful to the brave firefighters and other frontline emergency personnel as they combat the flames that continue to burn. Mr. President, thank you for visiting the men and women here at the border in Brownsville, Texas, who dedicate themselves to the safety and security of our country and the enforcement of our laws. The operational brief you received today demonstrated several crucial points. First, you were able to, once again, see up close the extraordinary talent, tireless dedication, and true heroism of our personnel who give so much of themselves every day, many at great personal risk, to secure our border, disrupt and dismantle dangerous cartels and smuggling operations, keep fentanyl out of our communities, rescue victims, and so much more. I'm incredibly proud of the men and women in and out of uniform who serve our country through their work for our United States Department of Homeland Security. Second, you heard about the dynamic and challenging phenomenon of irregular migration we face as our hemisphere and the world experience the greatest displacement of people since World War II. At times last year, 30% of the encounters across our entire southern land border occurred in this Rio Grande Valley sector. Today, we discuss the dramatic changes our partners in the South have helped bring about by increasing their enforcement before people reach the United States border. Third, you heard from DHS leadership about how resource-starved we continue to be. Only Congress can address our desperate need for more Border Patrol agents, field operations officers, immigration enforcement agents and officers, asylum officers, immigration judges, support personnel, facilities, and technology. You can see the impact these resources will have on our ability to strengthen our security, advance our mission to protect the homeland, and enforce our nation's laws quickly and effectively. Though Congress has not yet provided the resources we need, DHS will continue to enforce the law and work to secure our border. We have listened to our workforce and, leveraging every available asset, equipped them with new technology, logistical support, innovative tools, 11 new processing facilities, and hundreds of additional processing coordinators and support personnel. We are removing and returning historic numbers of migrants who entered illegally and failed to qualify for relief. Just since mid-May, we have removed or returned more such migrants than in any full fiscal year since 2015. We have provided asylum officers new authority to streamline the asylum claims process, implemented regulatory changes that incentivize migrants to follow safe, orderly, and lawful pathways, and so much more. The importance of passing the bipartisan legislation to fix our broken immigration system and add much-needed resources cannot be overstated, nor can the heroism of our personnel who accomplish so much for our country with so much less than what they need and deserve. Finally, Mr. President, you heard about the difference that cooperation, collaboration, and communication between federal personnel and local officials can make in the efficient and effective enforcement of our laws. Unlike Texas Governor Abbott's efforts to undermine federal border enforcement, the leaders in Brownsville serve as a model of cooperation in addressing, together, the challenges that irregular migration present, all in the service of this community and our country. Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you to the public officials here at all levels of government, and thank you to the extraordinary public servants of the United States Department of Homeland Security. It is now my pleasure to introduce Congressman Vicente Gonzalez.
Thank you all. Thank you all so much for being here this afternoon. Thank you, Secretary Mayorkas. It is my honor to welcome President Joe Biden to the 34th Congressional District of Texas. Let's give him a big, warm welcome. And we hope this is just the beginning of many more visits to our region, not only in this presidency, but in the next. We want to thank him for such critical conversations that we've had on issues that impact us here and across the southern border. But I can't go by without celebrating the recent over $300 million of infrastructure investment that we've received right here to our congressional district. I know when you travel across the valley, you see this massive infrastructure in roads and bridges, but we've especially have received a lot of resources in expanding our ports of entry, our airports, $68 million to deepening and broadening the port of Brownsville, which will allow larger vessels to come in, and more projects to assure that we continue to compete globally in the next generation. And secondly, I'd like to thank folks who are here today who understand that border security is not a Democratic or Republican problem. It's an American problem that requires real bipartisan solutions. And that's why we must enact legislation that enables us to hire more immigration judges, more agents, more infrastructure on our southern border. And the bill that came from the Senate side, that the bipartisan border security package, would do just that. And it would fix many of the problems that are urging our southern border today. And we need to continue with ideas like that, we need to assure that one former president and a partisan rogue group of members of Congress don't stop this progress and don't alleviate the pressure on our southern border. I continue to urge safe zones in the Congress, to create safe zones in places like Guatemala and Panama and possibly Colombia, where migrants can process their asylum claim thousands of miles from our southern border. And it takes the pressure off our southern border, and it assures that cartels don't continue to enrich themselves by trafficking people to our southern border. However, we cannot do this without a bipartisan cooperation, and we need to assure that we continue to nudge that small rogue group of members of Congress, of Republican members of Congress. It's not all of them, it's a small group that are putting a stop on important legislation that could create, could really take the pressure off our southern border and create improved conditions here in South Texas and across our region. So rest assured that I will continue to work with President Biden and members of Congress across the aisle to bring policies that will make things better for everyday Americans, but also secure our southern border. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you to all the stakeholders that are here, that joined us this morning. I could not be more proud than to have all of you here today. So God bless South Texas, and God bless the United States of America. Mayor Cal.
The judge. Do you bear any responsibility?
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is John Cowan, and I am the mayor of the city of Brownsville. Mr. President, thank you for visiting our beautiful city, the largest city in the Rio Grande Valley. I believe I speak for all of the elected officials here when I say it's an honor to have you here. We stand united in our commitment to protect our communities, secure our border, and uphold our values. I'm a member of the South Texas Alliance of Cities, a group of mayors from South Texas communities. We work in partnership with the federal government, local law enforcement, and nonprofits to address the challenges created by the border issue. We understand the complexities, the diversity of thought on possible solutions, and the compelling need to ensure that immigration is not a wedge issue. As local leaders, we are responsible for our communities, our safety and well-being. We cannot play politics with this. I am proud of the work we have done in Brownsville to help people entering the country. Our approach, called the Brownsville Model, is as compassionate and humane as it is efficient. It prioritizes dignity and care. For 2 years in a row, Brownsville has been named one of the 20 safest cities in America. Mr. President, all of us here are overworked and understaffed. In Brownsville, we have assisted over 240,000 migrants since 2021. Our population is just below 200,000. From El Paso to San Antonio to Brownsville, we all need help. So do our federal partners. We cannot afford to wait. We need to pass the Senate's promising bipartisan border bill that you have championed. We've studied it, and it will give cities critical resources to respond humanely to the migrant challenge. Thank you for your leadership. It's a big deal to have the President of the United States in the Rio Grande Valley, and thank you all for visiting beautiful Brownsville, Texas. Thank you.
To hold you responsible. Mr. President, do you bear any responsibility for Laken Riley's death?